The only thing that I'm guilty of is lying about what I do for a job. Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I am Raphael and I am here to review part 3 and the final part to the Real Housewives we might not see sitting on the couch of the season 3 reunion of Salt Lake City. So we start this last part of the reunion with all the husbands coming out sitting behind their wives, except Zeph. Zeph is sitting on a big ass iPad sitting behind Meredith. And I'm not sure what kind of Wi-Fi connection they had, but it was so clear because Zeph, I'm not sure if it was like a 3D movie effect or something, but it looked like he was just about to come out through the iPad and touch Meredith on the shoulder. That's how good the Wi-Fi was. Zeph, he's not there because he's in Mississippi doing who knows what or who knows who. Andy, he goes around asking everybody how's everybody's feeling. He goes to each husband one by one. He goes to Coach Shah. Coach Shah, he looks nice in his purple suit with his velvet suit, which by the way, I'm giving an homage to Coach Shah in his outfit by wearing purple, a purple shirt similar to what he was wearing as opposed to what I was wearing the last 2 episodes for this reunion. He goes over to Justin, which is Whitney's husband. And which by the way, he just skipped over Heather. I completely didn't notice that Heather didn't have anybody sitting behind her. She had like the Giselle and Robin effect where she had no man sitting behind her. And honestly, if I was Heather, I wouldn't come to this reunion single. I mean, yeah, I can be all for, I'm an independent person. I don't need a man to make me happy. For this reunion, yes, I do. Like, I'm not showing up to this reunion with no man, even if I have to like hire somebody. Oh yeah, this is my boyfriend, he's my long lost lover. We've been together for like 48 hours or whatever it takes. I'm gonna have somebody sitting behind me. Like, even if I have to get like a little puppy or something, like somebody's gonna accompany. I'm not about to be just lonely at the reunion. Andy goes over to Dewey. I mean, I'm actually surprised that they kept all the scenes with Dewey and Jenny this entire reunion. We could have just honestly cut them off, especially with what Dewey was coming out of his mouth. Andy, he says, "Oh, Dewey, how are you doing?" Dewey decides to make a joke. "Oh yeah, everything is good. Everything is fine. I haven't gotten any applications at my job for any sister wives." And I'm just like, "Oh, Dewey, so this is how we're starting off." Andy proceeds to ask Zeph, "Oh, Zeph, what's going on here? Why are you not here exactly? Like, why are you in Mississippi?" Zeph is just like, "Oh, because of COVID. Because of COVID." Like, we all know how he likes a pair of tits. But okay, regardless, he says he's in Mississippi doing who knows what. Andy goes on with the questioning. He starts off with Whitney, I believe. And he's just like, "So Whitney, how much money did you put your family through bankrupt almost? Like, how much money did you use up so far?" And then Whitney, she's just like, "Well, Andy, I used up a lot of money actually. I took a math class this past month and I calculated all together. So let me see. Hold on, give me 1 second. 1, 2, 3, buckle my shoe, times 2, down the rabbit hole. I believe it was $1,003,000,000,000 dollars. That's how much money I got to spend on my Wild Rose Beauty. I think that's what I called it, right? I don't remember. It was so long ago. But yeah, it was a lot of money. And yeah, we're close to being, put out of the house and put on the street and living on the street. But you know what? It's okay because look, I got to wear this nice, beautiful green dress and I think it's worth it, right?" And Andy, he moves over to Justin. Like, "So Justin, what's going on with the situation with you and your wife? Like the whole money situation. Like, how do you feel about this?" And you could tell that Andy was getting a little bit pissed with all the husbands because they kept like sugarcoating these answers like, "Oh no, everything is fine with my wife. No, everything is fine with me and my wife and so and so." But Justin, he's just like, "Oh, well, I mean, yeah, she took out a lot of money and she almost put us all out on the street and we're almost out on the street actually, but that money, it was for the savings because we were gonna buy a big trailer or a big camping trailer or something like that." And he's just like, "Oh yeah, so she just used money out of that. But other than that, we're fine. We still have a lot of savings, even though I'm lying through my teeth right now. But I can't tell you that, Andy, in front of all these cameras." Andy, he wasn't happy with that answer, so he was just like, "But don't you feel some type of way that your wife right here, she was just so like irresponsible with her money?" And then Justin, again, he wasn't giving Andy the answer that he wanted, so he was just like, "No, I think my wife is the investment." And so Andy was just like, "Okay, Justin, so let me ask you again." Like, Andy was getting so annoyed. And so was I. I was tired of all this. I mean, I get it that you're the husband, but I mean, you can be upset about it. Your wife almost put you at bankruptcy, at least from what it looks like. And then he just says that, "Oh no, everything is fine with with Whitney. Everything is okay." Whitney's like, "Yeah, I'm his investment. Even though he's older than me, I'm his retirement home." Yeah, everything is cute now though, Andy. Do you want some Wild Rose products? And then Heather chimes in and she's like, well, yeah, every time I get Wild Rose products at my store at Beauty Lab, it sells out underneath 2 minutes. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's insane how much like it just disappears off the shelves. And I'm just like, so Heather, how many products do you actually put on the shelf? Because I can only imagine it's probably like three things, like 3 lotion bottles, and people just take them, and then Heather's just like, oh my god, it's sold out. Like that's what sold out in Heather's head probably means. So then Andy moves the conversation over to Zeph, and he's just like, this is another answer that he did not like, because he's just like, so Zeph, what did you think about, Lisa's rant that she went on about your wife Meredith? What did you think about that? And Andy, Andy was thinking like, okay, here comes the drama and the juice. He's about to throw Lisa underneath the bus or something. But nope, Zeph gave another ABC answer. Zeph is just like, well, you know what? My wife Meredith, she was going through a lot at the time and everything, and it was a very tough moment, and her dad had just passed away, and I know how it could have been hard for her to deal with all of this, with all of these cameras in her face. And then Andy, I'm telling y'all, Andy was just over it. Andy was just like, okay, but yeah, I get all that, Zeph, but please answer the question. So how did you feel? Okay, I guess you're not gonna understand this, so I have to just put it out there. How did you feel about Lisa accusing your wife Meredith about fucking half of New York? How did you feel about that? Please tell me how you felt. So Zeph, again, he was listening to Andy, but again, he just kind of was just like, oh no, everything is fine. I mean, did you actually know that? I mean, if Meredith fucked the half of New York, I actually fucked the other half of New York. And Andy was just like, you know what? I'm canceling this show after season 3. Like, these men were not giving them any type of good answers at all. At least not that Andy wanted to hear. I wouldn't be surprised if he allegedly did fuck the whole entire other half of New York. I wouldn't be surprised if they were dominating one city at a time. He moves over to John, Lisa's husband, and then he's just like, okay, Zeph, since you're not giving me anything, I'm gonna move over to John. John, what did you think about your wife going off on that rant? Please give me something good. Did he give Andy anything good? Probably not, because John was just like, well, I mean, my wife, she's not really like that. I'm like, oh, here we go. He's just like, my wife is not really like that. When she watched that, she cried. She broke down and everything, and it was just really hard for her to watch. And I hope that everything could be mended between them. And I'm just like, oh, so we're just going to hold hands like Teletubbies all throughout this reunion. But okay. Andy moves over to Dewey. He's just like, you know what? Fuck you, Zeph. Fuck you, John. I'm moving over to Dewey. I know he's going to put his foot in his mouth. So Dewey, please tell me about your sister wife situation, and why were you just you were so inconsiderate about Jenny's feelings about, getting her pregnant or having another child. And then Dewey, I mean, I'm not sure what he was trying to get at, because he just made this whole situation sound even worse on top of what he was already explaining throughout the season at the beginning of the season. He's just like, oh, well, I really worship Jenny. I think she's an incredible woman. And, you guys see my children, right? Like how beautiful they are and how kind they are. And I just wanted more of that in this world. And I'm just like, Dewey, first of all, you should start with your wife, with kindness and beauty and everything. You should start with her. Teach her those things before you want to teach anybody else around the world, or have your children teach that out there to the public, because look at what your wife is teaching online. I don't think you really want to I don't think that's really kind or beauty that she's putting out there. So, and he's just like, well, I mean, I didn't necessarily want to get her pregnant. And then this is where he like turned me off even more, because he was just like, oh, well, I know everybody here on the stage is like a business person. So when I, had that conversation with Jenny about having another child, I thought about it like a business, like putting my feelings aside and putting her feelings aside. And I'm just like, that's not a good way to deal with things in life, at least not from my perspective, like just to put your emotions to the side 24/7 and then just deal with it as if it's a business. Like Jenny's body and, her motherhood is not a business like that, Dewey. Like that was just a horrible way of looking at it. And then Jenny's just like, I wanted to get counseling with him or whatever, because I just felt like he hasn't changed over this. And, he has talked about the whole sister-wife situation, but I'm just not down for that. And again, I did feel bad for Jenny for dealing with this, but I feel like she should just let him go, because having a man like that, just like this, own your feelings like that, just because he wants to treat you and your body like a business, disrespectful and really disgusting. But then again, they're like a match made in heaven, so it is what it is. And then Coach Shah, he chimes in and he's just like, you know what, can I just add one thing further or whatever? Because I'm actually going through therapy right now. And I know it's a very taboo thing in the African American community, but, it has to be out there that, we can get therapy. Dewey also chimes in, and he's just like, yeah, in my community as well, it's also like a taboo thing. People really don't get therapy like that, and that's something that we're working on. And honestly, that I'm glad that Coach Shah brought that up, because even in my own culture, in my Hispanic culture, yeah, I don't think that, going to seek help for your mental health or anything, none of that, all of that is kind of like a taboo thing. It's just like, if you talk about it, people are like, oh, please stop. You're just being a big baby. It's not even that serious, blah, blah, blah. So I'm actually glad that Coach Shah brought such a serious subject up. Andy then moves his focus over to Coach Shah, and he asked him to explain the timeline that led up to Jen getting that phone call from somebody in the parking lot of Beauty Lab. And then Coach Shah, he begins to explain that he's had a history with rectal bleeding, and he wanted Jen to know because that specific day, he was in the hospital for it, but he wanted to let Jen know through his assistant. So his assistant was the one that called Jen before the Homeland Security ever got in contact with Coach Shah to begin with. But what makes the story a little suspicious is that when we see the flashback, Jen, she picks up the phone and she's just like, hey baby, yeah, no, I'm still here. I haven't left. You want me to go home? So it's just like, if you were so concerned about your rectal bleeding or Jen knowing about it, why would you direct her, or why would your assistant direct Jen to go home instead of going to the hospital to go visit you? Like, that's not making sense to me. We all know that Jen was on her way to Mexico with a whole new ID and a whole new passport. I don't know, Coach Shah. I want to believe your rectum story, but it was giving me the same vibe as, oh, Tom flipped his car 5 times and he had to get eye surgery, and burglars broke into his house and he had to fight them off like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was giving me the same vibe, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I want to believe you, but then again, I don't know. I'm torn in between the two again. Like, the same abuse that I was getting from Erica all last season of almost believing her lies is the same abuse that I'm getting at this reunion. Like, I don't know what to believe anymore. I mean, what do y'all think? Do y'all believe him? Do y'all believe Jen? Andy's next question was, IAmRafael from YouTube wants to know, why is Sharif not getting the Erica Jane treatment? Because that was my same exact question in my last review, I believe, or my first one about this reunion. That why isn't Sharif being held to the same standard as Erica Jane? And I can tell you why. It's because Sharif, he comes off likable. He is so cool. He's just such a nice husband, as opposed to Erica. She came off a little too vicious this past season of Beverly Hills. She came off like if anybody asked her anything, she was gonna rip your head off. As opposed to Sharif, he's just so calm. He's just so soothing, and he knows how to listen to everybody instead of just, attacking everybody. That's why. Now, if Coach Shah had came off to Jen like, oh, you this, that, and the third, or if he came off being mean to Jen, of course, everybody will have a whole different view of who he was. But because he's nice and he's a sweet man, that's why the audience is kind of like fooled by it. Like, no, he can't be a part of this. He must be not guilty. It's all Jen. Look at Jen and her behavior. They're like two completely polar opposite people. So that's why. But to me, I'm so sorry, Coach Shah, but I have to look at you, even though I do like you, and I really do think that you're actually one of the best husbands out of the whole entire franchise. I have to look at you the same way I was looking at Erica Jane, regardless of your nice behavior on the show, because there is just no way that Jen would just come home with $1 million or whatever every other night from allegedly scamming elderly, and you're just like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. Like, I know she's coming home from her work or whatever, or her job. And even when Andy was just like, oh, can you try to explain like what she does as a job? He couldn't even explain that. He was just like, joggers. She's coming out with something in the, more spring, summer. Yeah, spring, summer joggers. Like, that's what he was saying. I'm like, he couldn't even explain that. He was just like, oh, she's into fashion and beauty. And I'm just like, but what does that have to do with anything? I mean, it's just like, okay, what's your point? Jen also adds in that she felt hurt by Whitney's comments that she was making on the bus when Jen went to jail, when Whitney was explaining the reasons why Jen possibly went to jail. And I'm just looking at Jen like, why are you upset at Whitney though? I mean, Whitney, she did like anybody else would. If I had a friend who got arrested out of thin air for no reason that I knew of because of X, Y, and Z that I'm reading online, of course I'm going to be like, well, maybe she did it because of this, or maybe they did it because of this. And I'm going to try to break it down to the best of my acknowledgement. So I'm not sure why you're so upset with Whitney. And I'm not sure why Whitney was apologizing. Whitney, she folded like a table so easily in like seconds. Like, she had all the heat and all the fire for Lisa the first 2 parts of the reunion. But as soon as Jen says anything to her, she was just like, I just wanna apologize. I'm so sorry. Do you want half of my business in Wild Rose? I'll give you 50% of my company. I'm so sorry, Jen. I won't ever do that again. I'm sorry. You can slap me in the face if you want. Do you want my green dress? I'll give it to you after the reunion. Like Whitney no, like, no. Like, keep the same energy that you had with Lisa to Jen. This is why Heather and Whitney both need to go, because neither one of them have a backbone unless they're like together in a way, or unless they're drunk. Whitney, I was so disappointed in you. If I was you, I would have just stood in my ground like, yeah, I said that. And I was feeling through a bunch of emotions. I wasn't accusing you of things. I was just listing out the things, just like Whitney said. I was just listing them out. So I'm not sure why you're upset at me. You're the criminal, allegedly. And then Jen, she threw a dagger at Justin, Whitney's husband, and she was just like, but I don't get why you were making all these assumptions. Me and you have never discussed my business, whatever business that is to begin with. We have never discussed it. How would you like it if I said something about Justin's, his company or whatever, and I said that he was running a FTC. A FTC is another way of fraud, I believe. At least that's what I did my research. And it's basically another word for fraud businesses or whatever. And then Justin, he was halfway asleep through this reunion when he was just like, did she just put me out there and she put my business out there? Fuck. Just smile and look pretty. Huh? You know, Justin was caught off guard so badly because there has been rumors online that he is running supposedly a pyramid scheme. And speaking of pyramid scheme, here comes Andy. Jen threw the dagger, but Andy, he twisted because he's just like, oh, now since we're on the discussion on that, I have another question. Justice, supposedly you're running a pyramid scheme. Can you tell us about that? Because there's a lawsuit out. I'm like, damn, Andy, way to piggyback off Jen. But Justin, he's just like, oh, well, that's just a lawsuit from years ago. It doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just my name is attached to it for this amount of time. But I read something online. I believe he posted it on his Instagram or somewhere online recently, that the company that he's actually talking about here, I think, he doesn't work for that company anymore. I'm not sure if they parted ways with him or he parted ways with them. He didn't give an explanation. He just gave this huge, long, paragraph reason, as if anybody cares. Jen, she also adds in, and Jen, I don't know how I felt about this, because Jen is just like, I just also want to add in, it's funny how everybody's looking at me suspicious just because I have so much money. The brown girl, just because I'm brown, people are looking at me like I can't have this type of money. And I'm just like, Jen, I could see where you're coming from. I could completely see your perspective. I could completely see where that is going. But in this case, it's a no. Like, you can't use that excuse in this argument here, because that's just like saying, oh, we see a person of color trying to rob a bank, and just because they're a person of color, we're not allowed to question it or allowed to accuse them of their crimes, even though we visually see what's going on. So, Jen, again, I see what you were trying to say. I completely do, especially on the Housewives, especially given the racist history on this franchise. But in this case, I don't know. It's just no. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that Jen was kind of just jumping the fence with that comment right there? Because she also explained with Sharif. Sharif, we understand where his money is coming from, at least from, what he was explaining. But Jen, yeah, of course, the audience, Andy, the wives, everybody's questioning where the money's coming from your side specifically. Not necessarily Sharif, but more so you, because we have yet to know the history of your job or your business. Like, what exactly do you do? Maybe if you were elaborate on that and explain and break it down a little bit more instead of just hiding it or just saying that you have it like that, maybe we could believe it. But here we get no explanation from you, which makes you look suspicious. Sharif goes into explaining how he felt shocked that Lisa wasn't the first one in line to help Jen throughout this whole situation, to help her scam the elderly, to help her transfer the money from New York to Utah, to help her by just being a good shoulder to cry on when the police are looking for her. And Lisa, she said, well, I still needed some time to process everything, so that's why I wasn't picking up her phone calls. But he was shocked that Heather was the one who stepped up to the plate and was there for Jen throughout the whole situation. Are we surprised? Because Heather, obviously, we see that she has no self-respect when it comes to friendships, because she lets Jen just call her Honey Boo Boo, Shrek, not Donkey, not the Princess Fiona, not the fairy godmother, but Shrek. And you get called a racist by your own best friend, and you're okay with that. So, of course, Heather's just going to be Jen's doormat no matter what. So, of course, are we surprised? No. And then Sharif, he also goes on to tell this, I don't want to call it a sob story, but at least that's the vibe I was getting, because I'm like, he goes on to explain how Jen, she was going through it emotionally and she just couldn't get out of bed. She was so depressed. She was just like, everybody's accusing me of this. Now people are going to think that I'm guilty of this. Like, I'm not, I'm innocent. But I'm just like, okay, again, I'm looking at it from a perspective, like, let's say she is guilty, right? Because again, I have to treat you the same way that I treated Erica in my reviews, Jen. Even though I do like you, I have to treat you the same way, because, again, it's a 50-50 toss-up, and I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to think. But let's say you're feeling depressed, you couldn't get out of bed, you couldn't do X, Y, and Z, right? But how do you think that the elderly people felt when they got scammed out of their money? They probably couldn't get out of bed either. They were probably depressed in bed all day, like, oh, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money going through? You don't bother thinking about that, right? So again, why should we feel sympathy for your feelings and what you were going through when you felt no sympathy for the victim? So, I mean, and on top of that, I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but Jen is selling merch that says, Team Shah Amazing or whatever, and Free Jen or whatever. I'll put a picture up here, but I'm just like, that is such poor taste of you to be selling merch like that. I believe it says not guilty. I think it says not guilty, Team Jen or something. And I'm just like, that is such poor taste, especially with everything you're going through. Let's say you are found guilty of these alleged crimes, then what? Again, you're trying to profit off something that's making you look bad in the media and on TV. So I'm not sure if that's a good look. What do y'all think? I mean, the sweater is cute though. One of the sweaters, I believe the one that says Team Shah Amazing or Team Shah or whatever, it is cute. I'll give her that. But again, Jen, if you want us to feel sympathy for you, this whole sob story, especially coming from Coach Shah, somebody who is likable between both of you, I'm still not buying it. Even if you give me a 50% discount, I'm still not gonna buy it. The husbands eventually leave and Zev's iPad gets turned off. Meanwhile, Lisa on the commercial break, she gets up and she heads over to Heather and Whitney's side of the couch. And I'm just looking at her like, okay, she's about to get her revenge on Heather and Whitney and how they treated her the first two parts of the reunion. She's about to go over there and just swing on them. But no, she gets in between them and she sits down between Heather and Whitney. And she's just like, Heather, I'm so sorry. Like, I really, really do love you and I cherish our friendship. I'm so sorry. Like, let's go get Del Taco after this. I'll give you 2 bottles of Vita Tequila for free. I'm so sorry. Like, I'll promote your beauty lab on my Instagram story as well. All I need is $10 for like a promotional fee. That's it. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I want us to be best friends again. I'm so sorry. Meanwhile, Whitney, right next to Lisa, she's just being ignored and she's just like, what about me, Lisa? Do I get a hug? I don't think she heard me. Do I get a hug? I don't think she heard me. Lisa, do I get a hug? Me, yeah, do I get a hug? Oh, I do? Okay, huggy time, huggy. Give me a kissy too. Oh, I miss you so much. I'm so sorry I had to go so hard at the reunion for you. I had to secure my snowflake for next season. I'm so sorry. You smell so good. Is that Chanel? And I'm just like, Whitney, stop being such a kiss ass. And again, Lisa, manipulation 101, because she knew what she was doing. She wasn't just over there just to be nice out of nowhere. She was over there because she does not want to get iced out for next season, because if she leaves this reunion on bad terms with everybody, of course, nobody's going to want to film with her. What's that usually mean? You eventually get the boot from the Housewives and eventually they can't film with you. So Lisa goes back over there. And then Heather, she's just like, we did have a kumbaya moment just now because, Lisa, she did bring me on to the show. And Meredith, she made sure to like, no, I brought you on, bitch. Meredith was just like, no, Heather. I was the one who brought you on. I put you on onto the show. I'm the one who gave you the center snowflake. It's because of me that anybody knows you. And Heather's just like, yeah, it's because of you and Lisa. I'm so sorry. That's that. And then Andy begins to tell Lisa, so Lisa, I mean, you're okay with them now. What about Meredith? And then Lisa's just like, well, I mean, with Meredith, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a minute because, obviously, look at how she was with Jen. And Jen only liked the tweet. But Meredith, again, I'm surprised that she didn't say, Jen threatened my family and harassed my family. Meredith, she explains that no, the reason why her and Jen had this ongoing issue was not because she just liked the tweet, was because there was more behind it. And Meredith was just like, it's not just because of a tweet. There was more harassment behind the scenes from Jennifer Shah that I could not withstand. So with Lisa, it's going to take a while. I'm not going to promise anything, but we'll see on season 3. Andy then asks Jen what happened after she left the parking lot of Beauty Lab in the getaway car on the way to Cancun with a whole new passport. And she lets us know that the police actually stopped her 20 minutes later after she left. And when they stopped her, they didn't read her Miranda rights. And she didn't find out what she was being charged for or what she was being searched for, allegedly. Until she got to jail and the judge, I believe, told her like, oh, you're being charged for this, this, and this. And then Andy's just like, oh, so how did you feel about this? And are you being charged for 50 years, supposedly going into jail for money laundering, for scamming, for fraud? And then Jen, she's just like, I don't really remember what the judge said. Like, I don't remember anything. Nope. I don't. Oh, these feathers are in my face. I don't remember, Andy. I'm sorry. I don't really. I don't know. I don't remember. And I'm just like, Jen, this is serious. Andy's just like, so, Jen, tell us about Stu. Where's your relationship with him? And then now all of a sudden, Jen does not know who Stu is. She's just like, I don't know who Stu is. I mean, are you talking about beef stew? I don't know what Stu. The Stoop kid from Hey Arnold? I don't know what Stu you're talking about. No, I mean, yeah, he was my business partner of 10 years, but I don't really know him like that. And I'm just like, oh, now you don't know him like that. Now your relationship that you have shown us all season with him, all of a sudden that doesn't exist. You were just feeding the man a banana in your living room, in your kitchen, and now all of a sudden you're like, I don't know him or his kids. I'm sorry. I just hired him, but we're not really, we're not really cool like that. We're not really besties like that. All of a sudden, it's a whole different thing now, but okay. Andy then brings up the footage that Jen actually allowed Bravo to use of Homeland Security and the police showing up to her house and taking her boys out of the house with the guns pointed at their heads. And I remember when I reviewed that episode, I thought that was a little bit too much to show, especially at their young age. This is going to be footage that follows them forever. Even if they're innocent, they just got caught up in the fire of their mom's fire. So again, to put that out there was just a little bit out of taste, but Jen, her excuse is, oh, she wants everybody to know, the public. She wants everybody to know that no matter what lifestyle you come from, even if you do have money, and even if you are in a gated community, like how her house was, this could still happen to you. So I guess I see her reasoning for it, I suppose. And at the same time, I was also cringing because as Jen is explaining this, the cameras just keep flashing over to Jenny to give us her perspective on things and like her face expression. And we already know how she feels about this specific subject. So again, that was just kind of poor taste. I'm like, ooh, we could have just edited all of that out. Like, edit Jenny completely out of this conversation. But Andy then brings up the next conversation. He's just like, so how did you feel about everybody, kind of questioning where did you get your money from? Again, we're bringing this conversation up. And Jen, she goes on to say that she was really offended that Whitney would call Coach Shah a sugar daddy. And she starts crying about it. And I'm just like, this is what you're offended about after the list of huge things that all these women have said about you. That's what you're mostly offended about? Okay. And she says that Lisa had a private conversation with her, and she said that Lisa told her that they all have been counting Jen's money. They're all been questioning, where is she getting this money from? Where is she getting this money from? And then Lisa was just like, please don't look at me. Like, everybody here on this stage has said the same thing. And then Whitney and Heather, they're like, we never said that. Meredith, she also jumped in and she's like, I'm so sorry, Lisa. I ain't never said a thing. I mean, I never said anything about your money, Jen. And I'm just like, well, damn, they all just threw Lisa underneath the bus again. We were all questioning things. I mean, Lisa, you could have said me, like Rafael said that. I would have raised my hand like, yeah, I was questioning where you get your money from. Yes, that was me. Andy then turns his attention over to Lisa and he asks her, so Lisa, it seems like you tried to distance yourself from Jen as soon as possible when everything went down. And Lisa, before he even finished the question, she was just like, no, I didn't. Like, Lisa, come on now. Yes, you did. And it's okay if you did, because I would have done the same thing. Of course, anybody would have. Look at what Sutton did in Beverly Hills. She distanced herself from Erica because she didn't want any part, or she didn't want her name thrown around in something in like criminal activities. So it's okay for you to say that. Don't be scared just because Jen is sitting across from you. She's not going to do anything to you, which, by the way, I was so upset that Andy didn't even question that whole entire fight on the bus. Like, you're not going to question Jen on why she charged Lisa on the bus. Nothing, none of that. But okay. So Lisa's just like, well, Andy, I just called my 6 lawyers because I wanted to see what was on the docket. And something that pissed me off was that Heather just kept rolling her eyes the entire time. She was just like, the docket? What is this, the docket? It seems like Heather is willing to go down with the ship if Jen is on it. Like, she's that blinded by her loyalty to Jen. And you're getting upset just because Lisa has a different view, or just because she wants to question certain things. Just because you are easily fooled by Jen does not mean that Lisa has to do the same thing. We are allowed to feel scared. Like, if I was in Lisa's shoes, I would have done the same thing. Like, wait a minute, maybe I should distance myself from this friend because I'm not sure what's about to happen. I did not see any of this happening, so I don't want to be caught up in the fire. Heather, you could be caught up in the fire. Lisa, she was smart enough to at least get 600 lawyers on the phone. And then Jen, she gets all pissy and she's just like, well, no, stop talking because you talk over everybody else. You're just being a bitch. And Jen, those feathers really riled you up that night, because absolutely not. Like, Lisa, you were too soft, because that hot mic moment that you had with Meredith in the bathroom about her and saying that she fucked half of New York, you should have directed that type of energy towards Jen, because Jen, absolutely not. Because the minute that I would have even heard the buh come out of her mouth, I would have been like, wait, you're calling me a bitch? I'd rather be a bitch than a criminal ass bitch. Or I would have been like, are you gonna wear those feathers to jail? Like, like, what are you gonna do there? Or if I was you, I would have also pulled a Jackie from the Housewives in New Jersey, and I would have been like, did you learn that confidence from jail? Like, absolutely not. Like, Jen, again, she just feels like she just could pile on everybody, because this whole cast, nobody is strong enough to take her. So that's why I said, if they're gonna cast somebody in the future, they need to cast somebody to go toe to toe with Jen, or else Jen is just gonna keep thinking that she's like the big bad wolf of Salt Lake City, and that nobody's gonna take her down. And Lisa, again, you were trying to keep up, but you really didn't. You just let Jen walk all over you. You're just like, oh, you're just trying to change the narrative. What you should have said, you're just trying to direct your anger at me just because you're gonna go to jail next month. Don't be upset with me. Be upset with you and your crimes. Like, that's what I would have said. But okay, Lisa, whatever. So then Andy, he continues on, and he's just like, so Jen, how did you feel about everybody basically accusing you that you're guilty of your crimes? And then Meredith, she jumped in and she's like, I never said she was guilty. I said that she was innocent until proven guilty. I never said that, Andy. And I'm just like, Meredith, you are also full of shit like everybody else on this stage. It's because you were the first one crying about like, oh, well, you see, I told you she was this. I told you she was that. I mean, the only person who kind of defended what's her name? Jen was Jenny, surprisingly. Jenny was the one that, why are we all jumping on board, like saying that she's guilty? We don't really know anything of what's going on. She was the only one who truly kind of stood her ground to some type of degree. They also touched on the Uber story of when Jen supposedly got out of the Uber car in the middle of nowhere to head to somebody else's house to have an affair behind her husband's back, or at least according to Lisa's story back in Vel. But now she's backpedaling and she's like, I never said that. I never said that Jen was having an affair. I never said that. And I'm like, but the footage does not lie, Lisa. You hinted at, or at least you alluded to Jen supposedly having some type of affair behind Sharice's back. So now you don't remember. And according to Andy, there's some type of podcast online that they did an interview with the actual Uber driver. And I'm like, so that's what we're doing now? Like, we're interviewing Uber drivers? But okay, I mean, you got to get the scoop somehow. So the next conversation is Meredith, what exactly did Jen do to terrorize your family? And I'm like, finally, the magic question. And then Meredith, she's just like, well, you know what, Andy? I got a couple of messages and they were very creepy and very scary and very threatening to my family. And I could not believe it. And you know what? I believe that my private investigator, they said that somebody in this room is the guilty person, but I'm not going to mention any names. And you could tell that Heather was pissy. And I kind of agree with Heather, because Heather was just like, if it's me, just say my name, Meredith, because you're going to piss me off by continue alluding that it's me. And you're not going to say any names. And I'm just like, ooh, Heather, you don't want to take Meredith on. Meredith will eat you alive. But Meredith, she just ignored her and she was just like, anyway, Heather, you're not important enough. Back to you, Andy. So yeah, Jennifer Shah, she terrorized my family in many ways. It wasn't just because she liked my tweet, but you know what? I kind of decided to let the investigation go because my private investigator, they weren't really doing a good job. And, they kind of hinted that maybe it was Jennifer Shah sending me these threatening text messages. And then come to find out that Heather also got these type of threatening messages as well as Jen. And I'm like, what kind of I Know What You Did Last Summer movie is this? Like, I'm just waiting for everybody to get letter in the mail like, I know what you did last summer. Watch her back. Like, what kind of scary horror movie is this? But nobody found out who it was. I'm assuming that the person was Andy. Like, Andy was probably the one who texted everybody from some strange number just to like cause drama between the group. I wouldn't put it past him or production. So, and then Andy, he finally asked the other magic question. He's like, so who here believes that Jen is guilty? Because before that, he had asked her, oh, Jen, so I believe you're facing 30 years in jail. And then Jen is just like, I don't really remember. I don't know. Was it 30? I'm not sure. I thought it was 50. I'm not sure. Maybe 60? I'm not sure. Maybe it's the square root of 30. I'm not sure. And then Andy's just looking at her like, you don't know how many years you're facing? And she was like, no, I don't. Like, that is very, very concerning. But then Andy, he asked the magic question. And he's like, so who here believes that Jen is guilty? And I just wanted somebody to raise their hand. I'm like, nobody at all. Because if I was there, I would have been like, yeah, what are you going to do about it, Jen? You see the hand, right? Yeah, what are you going to do about it? Yep. Oh, hold on. Let me put two hands in the air. Yep. Let me put a leg, too, while I'm at it. Like, I just wanted to see what her reaction was. And then Heather, she gets emotional. And again, dumb blinded loyalty, because Heather's just like, I don't care if she is guilty or not. I'm still gonna stick by Jen. And I'm just like, oh, that is very, very concerning. Heather, I mean, I'm telling y'all, I said it before, but Jen could literally go into Beauty Lab, rob the entire place, and put her name on it, and Heather will probably be like, oh, okay, fine. I guess I'll give Beauty Lab over to Jen. I guess I won't have a job anymore because she's that loyal to Jen. And don't get it wrong either. I mean, I am a loyal person as well. I'm loyal to people who I love and who I cherish, and friends and family as well, but I am not dumb. Like, I am not about to just give into just because I'm supposed to be loyal to you. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And Heather, that's a very, I mean, it's a good and bad trait, but the way you're balancing it is more like, oh, here's the loyalty and here's the logic. So that's very concerning. I believe Lisa's just like, oh, well, I mean, I hope that she is kind of like not found guilty, but I mean, who knows? And then Meredith, I wasn't sure where Meredith was going. Meredith was just like, well, I mean, I hope for the best, you know, Jen, I can't really say much, but I hope that everything works in your favor. Basically, yeah, I think that you're guilty. Like, and I wonder what she thinks about it because she's a lawyer. So I wonder, again, if she was Jen's lawyer, how would she handle that? I mean, she'll probably be like, Your Honor, my client is guilty. Just to get her off the show. And then Andy, he's like, okay, so Jen, am I gonna see you on the couch next season? And I'm just looking at Andy like, what couch? I mean, do they give couches in jail? Because that's the only way that you're gonna see her on a couch. But okay, Jen is just like, of course, I have to be the center snowflake. I mean, hopefully. But you know, again, we are gonna get some type of footage on season 3 of Jen. It's not like this is gonna be the last time we see her. We might not see her the whole season next season. Maybe, I don't know, depending on how her trial ends up. But as of now, yeah, there is footage of Jen in season 3. So we're gonna see her. I don't know about the reunion, but that's that. And then Andy, he wants to give everybody a chance to give their closing openings and then their closings for the season finale. And then Heather, she begins to cry and she's just like, I just want to say that we are all amazing women. We are different. We are so cool. We're friends. We are a powerful group right here. And then he moves over to Whitney. Whitney's just like, I just want to say that sometimes it's worth going bankrupt if it means that you get to wear nice, pretty dresses. That's it. That's it. That's my whole motto. And then Andy moves over to Meredith, and Meredith is just like, well, you know, Andy and the group, I just want to say that sometimes it's better to let things go. You know, it's better to just kind of, be okay with things because then it snowballs into a certain type of things and things get escalated to bigger situations. And I don't want to be threatened by Jennifer Shah anymore. So, I think everything's going to be okay. And then Andy moves over to Jenny. Jenny's just like, oh, well, I feel like I need to speak my mind a little bit more. And I'm just like, okay, if anything, you need to speak your mind a little less because you already spoke your mind way too much this season. So Jenny, then we move over to Lisa. Lisa, she starts crying and I'm just like, where are the tears at? Because she's like, I just want to say, Andy, that it's hard for me to be vulnerable. It's hard for me to be vulnerable. I'm sorry. Oh, fuck, there's no tears again. But it's hard for me to be vulnerable. Is that good? Okay, anyways, let's continue. Like, Lisa, stop with the theatrics. And he just gives everybody a churro to give a homage to what Heather and Jen had at the beginning of the season when they met up in the igloo or whatever, and they had churros, and then Jen burned it. And then they kind of toasted that, and that was that, y'all. That was the whole season wrap. That was the whole season finale. That was the whole ending of the reunion. That was that. We shall see what happens with Jen and her trial. Hopefully they cast some interesting people for next season. And hopefully we get back to like the lighthearted and the funniness and the adventurous and the luxurious side of Housewives. I mean, it's nice to be, criminal investigated every single week for one season at least, but not multiple seasons. Like, let's not have so many crimes after crimes after crimes every other Housewives season. It was a very, 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 I think this was probably the funnest time I've had reviewing a show. I reviewed The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Potomac, and New Jersey. And New Jersey's just, anyways, but Salt Lake City, I had a really, really fun time reviewing it. I really appreciate everybody watching my videos, leaving their comments. Like I said many times, I love reading all of them. I love the support. I love you like just subscribing to my channel and just simply watching my channel and supporting my videos. It really means a lot to me. And on top of that, can y'all believe that I've been reviewing this show since September? I mean, it's been like 6-7 months. It's almost been half a year. I'm not even the same person I was when this season started. Like, that is insane to me. Like, that is crazy, but here we are. And that's a wrap on season 2 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. What did y'all think about this whole season overall? To me, I think that this is one of the most memorable seasons of The Housewives in a very long time, or at least it's up there with some of the best, because this season was very in your face, it was very cutthroat, it was very extreme, and it was very toxic. I mean, this roller coaster of a ride, we thought it was gonna go one way, and it ended up going that way, this way, that way. It went all over the place. Which I also believe that Kevin, the van driver, I feel like he should have had a spot on the couch this reunion. Like, he should have told his part, like, Andy, I want to tell you about the emotional trauma that I felt this entire season. Especially at Beauty Lab. Like, he should have been a key witness, but maybe he'll get a snowflake next season. Well, who knows? Maybe he'll be a part of it too. It'll be nice to see him again. But overall, I had a really, really, really fun time reviewing every single episode. This was really, really fun to review the whole season up until the finale. The finale really just left a bad taste in my mouth overall with the whole season. I'm like, oh, we were going good, and then that finale happened, and ugh. But like I said before, I really appreciate everybody just simply watching my videos and supporting my channel and just commenting your opinions week after week after week with me. It was fun just sharing our opinions together about this entire hot ass mess of a season. But again, let me know what y'all thought about this whole season. I will be reviewing The Real Housewives of Atlanta and The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills when they premiere. I believe they come out in May, sometime in May. So for now, do y'all have any suggestions on what I should review? Because I think it's like April. There's nothing really going on in April, at least not that I know of. And The Housewives of New Jersey is almost halfway done, so that's almost a wrap. So if anybody has any suggestions on what I can make a video about or what I should review in the meantime before Atlanta and Beverly Hills come back, please let me know down in the comments. And again, y'all, once again, thank you so very much for just watching my videos week after week after week and supporting my channel. I really, really, really do appreciate it. And one more thing. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, y'all. Mwah.